Okay. All right, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to another class on how to use generative AI to code. So basically for tonight, our objective or our topic would be to improve on the EA that we made last week. So last week, we did our first session, and we decided then to just use Grok instead of ChatGPT or DeepSeek to code an EA. So as a review, let's run the EA that we had from last week. Let's use strategy tester for that. Okay, let's just run it in strategy tester. And then let's examine how can we improve that EA. Now guys, if you're using MetaTrader 5, there's actually a nice tool in strategy tester that's called market scanner. So basically, all the instruments that you have in your market watch, it will be evaluated. The EA that you have will be run against it. So that allows you to see what's the performance of your EA. So let's just run this for a bit, and then we will use the resulting file for this, the resulting chart for this, to analyze how can we improve the EA that we've made. This could take a few minutes, guys, so you'd have to bear with me. I think it will take like 4 minutes because we decided to do market scanner. I wanted to do market scanner because I wanted to show you how useful this tool is. Now, as we said, with market scanner, we should be able to take a look at the EA's performance across different instruments that are available in your market watch. So let's just give it some time, guys. This is typically when things begin to slow a bit. Last couple of minutes here. Okay, while we're waiting for that to happen, folks, let me just open our Grok. So basically, Grok is an AI that is provided by X. Although I'm not a fan of the owner, but we found that Grok to be the most useful free tool out there when it comes to coding. In fact, even when it comes to math, I find it more accurate. But let's see, because it's been a while since I've examined the latest features for ChatGPT. Now let me just also open our IDE. And here's the code that we were working on last time. Okay. So we're going to work on this code, try to improve it, try to see if we can get a better performance out of it. But let's see first how it runs from the last time. What is the performance of the code from last time? All right, so using market scanner, what do we have, guys? It looks like our idea wasn't really that good. Out of 20 instruments, backtesting it out of the 20 instruments gave us what? Gave us only one instrument where it was profitable in dollar Swiss. Now, but let me Oh. Okay, let me restart things, folks, because I wanted to show it in visual mode because I wanted us to work with the charts. So let me reopen things. Let me reopen MT5. Sorry for that. So I guess we wasted some time there. And yeah, let's do this. Oh, no. I'll skip. Okay, because I actually did this earlier and I found that the system was profitable only with respect to dollar Swiss. Now I want to generate a chart of the trades, or rather I want to have a chart where the trades are plotted, because that is where we try to figure out how can we improve the EA, the system that we had from last time. Okay, so here it is. Not exactly a very profitable EA. Out of a full year of trading, it only generated what, a 17% return from our from the start of 2024 up to now. So not too good. Can we improve on it? Let's see. So let's examine the chart, guys. And what were the rules that we used when we did the EA? We said that we wanted the EA to open buys if we have our stochastic aligning with the MACD. So let me plot these indicators in the chart. So let's put our MACD first. There's MACD. And then let me put our stochastic. Now, guys, one thing, you want to make sure that the parameters that you use in your indicator are the same parameters that you have for the EA. Okay, so you don't want to try to visualize things and find out that you're using different parameters. So for stochastic, we're using 1433, and for MACD, we're using 12269, which is what we have as our parameters in our chart. All right, so matching parameters, matching matching chart parameters with the EAs. Okay, now let me take a look at the performance again of our EA. Where is strategy tester? So here's the back testing of it. It actually did well for a good chunk, especially in the middle of middle to late 2014, but it performed miserably for this year. Okay, so how do we improve that? Let me just observe what else do we have out of this. It says that we had total of 358 trades, so basically we entered quite a lot. Okay, rather this EA traded quite a lot. Now what I want to do is I want to zero in on some trades. All right, here are some trades. Let's zero in on them. Now, what do we notice here, guys? These are actually losing trades. Our parameters for the EA, or we started last week, we started by instructing the EA to, where's my pen? Let me just bring up my pen again. So we instructed our EA last week to take trades in the direction of MACD. Whenever you have a crossover that is in the direction of the MACD. So if we look at our chart, it opened a buy here because MACD here is going up and there was a bullish crossover, so it opened a buy, which sorry, actually it opened a sell. All right, so that's actually something that we have to check with our logic here. So let's check the logic of the EA, guys. So we said that what we wanted to do was we wanted the EA to buy if MACD is rising and the stochastic has a new bullish crossover. So if we look at our code, we'll see that we have it testing if MACD was going up. The latest MACD value is greater than the previous MACD value. It's falling. Latest MACD value is less than the previous MACD value. And there are your stochastic parameters here. Now all right. So let's look at the entry conditions. We said that for entry conditions, you want your MACD to be going up, and then there is a bullish crossover, and there's no open trades. Okay, that's the logic that's being communicated to us here. So it opens a buy if MACD is rising and stochastic is as a bullish crossover, and there are no open trades. It opens a sell if MACD is falling and there's a bearish crossover, and again there are no open trades. Reviewing the code earlier, we will see that bullish crossover has been defined as your latest stochastic is now above the signal line, whereas the previous stochastic figure is below the signal line. So there's a crossover. All right, so that's what we wanted, or that was our instruction with the indicator. The problem that we have is that basically anytime that there is a crossover, where's my pen again? One of the things that I see, or one of the weaknesses that I see, is that anytime there's a crossover from the chart, the EA would open a position. Okay? Anytime that there's the market's dropping or MACD is dropping, and then there's a signal from stochastic that there's a bearish crossover, it opens a bear, it opens a sell. If MACD is rising and you have a new bullish crossover in stochastic, it enters the market. Now, why is this a problem? Well, if we go back to our basic technical analysis, supposedly in technical analysis, you only open a sell when you're coming off overbought areas, meaning the market is already overextended, it's not going to go up anymore, so you open a sell at that point. Or you open a buy if market is coming from oversold levels. Now, that filter, that requirement of coming from overbought, oversold, is meant to keep you out of false signals. So let's now adopt, or let's now modify our EA to adapt that concept. All right, so there's this our code from before. Now let me just, okay, as a practice, I would suggest that you don't just update the same file. I would suggest that you name another version. If you do a modification, then you just put another, you adopt the, you modify the name a bit. You call it version 1 or the latest version, or version, well, in this case, let me just say version 1, first test version 1. And now what we want to do is we want to have that code adjusted. So I want to tell Grok to modify the code that we have by including the parameter where it only buys if it's coming from oversold levels, and it only sells if it's coming from overbought levels. So let me just type that. So modify the following code with these parameters. Buy only if stochastic is coming from oversold levels and MACD is rising. Sell if stochastic is coming from overbought levels and MACD is dropping. And then we copy paste the previous code. So we copy it, paste it with Grok, and allow Grok to do its magic. So as it runs things, as it adjusts the code, notice that it will actually tell you how it understands what it's supposed to do. And I think it's done. Okay, so let's just copy it and then paste. Let me just select all and then, override it, paste the new code, and let's compile. And okay, so no errors. And let me just close this. Let's run it again from strategy tester. So let's see what the impact of the additional code is. Let's use it against all our market watch symbols. Oh, sorry. Let me just stop that. We actually want to use the latest file. I was using the old one. Let me use version 1. And let's run it. Now, this will take a bit of time because we are running the EA against, or we're doing strategy testing against, I think, about 20 instruments. Now, well, it's not really, I guess it's not taking that long, guys. So what we're actually trying to point out here, folks, is that when you do this, when you want to do EAs, when you want to do when you want to make indicators, what is important is that you are able to properly visualize what you want, and then you're able to properly communicate what it is that you visualized, meaning you write down the rules of how things would work. You write down the logic behind the decision to open a buy, open a sell, behind the decision to take a profit or to cut loss. And when you have that all settled, just when you're doing your prompt, just write it in a orderly manner, in a logical manner, and you don't have to know, again, like we said before, you don't have to know how to code. All right, so we adjusted the EA and this is its performance. I guess it's now profitable against two currencies, although against two instruments, although it actually lost money when trading dollar Swiss, and it was previously profitable with dollar Swiss. Now, why is that? Because the behavior has changed. Previously, the EA would only would enter every time there was a crossover in the MACD, in the stochastic that was in the direction of the MACD. Now we told it that, lessen that behavior, follow the rules for stochastic trading, go look for overbought, go look for oversold, and only wait until it comes out of overbought and oversold levels before doing the trade. I guess part of the profitable behavior for dollar Swiss was going in and out of the market pretty quickly or pretty often. Now, well, at least it did improve the performance by quite a bit. Aussie is showing a return of 24%, and we have, well, Brent doing a bit of profit, but again, he only traded 28 times. In Brent, only traded 225 times in Aussie. So we've improved things. Now, what else can we do as far as improving the performance of the indicator is concerned? Because we're profitable in Aussie, let me see if we can drill down in Aussie and figure out how much more. Oh, by the way, guys, when you're doing EAs, you also have to consider to which instrument you're applying your EA and what are the logic that your particular EA uses. For me, one of the things that I actually like to do is I actually like to also include a time parameter on just how long will a trade be left open. Let me show you something. Let me drag our session indicator and okay, let me just change the parameters of that. So basically, the session indicator will show you the open of the European market and the open of the rather the whole New York session. And what do you see in this chart? Typically, a lot of the price action happens during the open of the European market, all the way to the New York session. Also, note that much of the big move really happens a lot during that period where the US market and the European market intersects. In fact, a lot of whipsaws happen during that intersection between those two time frames. Let me zoom out a bit. So here's a big whipsaw here. Let me change the color. So here's the big whipsaw here. Here's a big, well, not really a big whipsaw, but more of a nice trend. But here's another whipsaw, again happening during that transition from, or rather during the overlap between the European and New York session. Now, why am I pointing this out? I'm pointing it out because one of the things that I like as a parameter for EAs is that I like to tell my EA to close trades at the end of the trading day of Europe. Okay, why is that? Because normally much of the big move happens during that time frame. Okay, during the trading session of the European market, because that's where a lot of liquidity is in. So let's try adding that parameter to our EA. So let me go back to Grok and let's add to its instructions. So can you include a parameter that closes trades? Actually, I want to even modify it some more. I want the EA to only open trades between the time when, let me open this again. Where's Epic Pen? I want the EA to only open trades during this time frame. Open of Europe, close of Europe. Open of Europe, close of Europe. Open of Europe, close of Europe. I want the EA to trade only during that time, or maybe even extend it a little bit more into the US market by, say, 2-3 hours, but not more than that. And let's see what happens with that added instruction. So can you include the parameter that activates trading between, let me just, that activates trading between input parameter on and input parameter off. These parameters are hourly time frames. So what I'm saying is I'm trying to tell the EA to reflect that window when it should be actively looking for potential trades. And let's see what happens. I actually use this parameter in my Big Ben trading EA, but that's really designed for Euro trading. So let me just run this. So again, Grok will tell you to confirm, or rather to indicate how it understands your instructions. And if you look at our code now, you're going to see that there is that input parameter trading R 0, trading on 0, and trading off hour 23. Of course, we'll have to adjust that. If you use I'm using the Rockwest MT4 server. Their open of the European market is actually at 10. So let me just copy paste this to our IDE, paste it on top of our IDE, and let me adjust that time frame. Now, normally the London market should be closed by 1800. Let me just adjust that a bit. So, of course, there are 24 hours in a single day. So this actually are numbers that would range from 0 to 23. Let's compile. Hopefully no errors. Okay, no errors. And let's see what the impact of this update is to our EA. So let me go to the input parameters. Okay, so 10, 19. You know, I'd note that we did not touch our take profit in points parameter, but because I'm trying to capture the big moves, let me adjust this a bit. Now, guys, if you're wondering, at 4, so it's now actually looking for 100 pips before it actually closes the trade. Now, let's just see how this change would impact the EA's performance. Now, folks, if you're wondering why were there no trades in some of the instruments that we asked the EA to evaluate, one reason behind that is that because we design the parameters for take profit, stop loss, using your 4-digit values, yeah, like in Euro, GBP, Aussie, and the like. Let's just see how that bit of code would affect its performance. Still working on it. Let's just give it some time. Now it's made Brent a little bit more profitable, and okay, it actually resulted to losses in the other instruments. Okay, so I guess part of that is that particular set of instructions typically would have been used in combination with a breakout strategy, which is how my London EA, my Big Ben EA in MT4 works. So obviously, poorer performance, we want to revert to the previous version. How do we do that? Well, given that we've already compiled things, you can always tell Grok to revert to the previous code, and it will adjust. It will go back to the previous code. And just wait for it to finish, and then we'll test. Okay, I think it's done. Select all, paste, compile, no errors generated. Let's run that again against all instruments. Yeah, I think what we should really be doing, guys, is we should do a class where we can do things step by step, not just in how to instruct your generative AI on how to make the code, or what the logic is for taking trades or going out of trades is. But I think we should have a class where we explain the basics of coding, basics of logic, basic rules on how orders are sequenced, how instructions are understood or read by the computer. Let me plan on that. I don't think that that's going to be a, I don't know, we'll try to do it as a stream, but I tend to think that that has to be more of a class where people can just revisit. Okay, let me just wait for this. All right, so yeah, looks like reverting actually improved the performance. So we reverted, we removed the time parameters. Oh, the performance improvement is actually due to this. We adjusted our take profit values. So that's one thing about the EA that we made. Adjusting your take profits, stop losses, stop loss values would of course adjust the performance or of the EA against different currencies. Ideally, what you should be doing is to make it more dynamic. Instead of saying take profit in this number of points, you would want to come up with the rule on when take profits are made, or when to take a stop loss, not from a, not using a specific number in points, but come up with, say, an instruction that says find the support and then use that support level as your stop loss point. That's okay. that's something that we should do next time. The way it would work is we will tell our EA then to use something like a fractal indicator and use that fractal value as the stop loss point for trades taken, or use it as a take profit as well. But we're running out of time, folks, so I guess we'll use that for our next session. So next time we will adjust things, we will use fractals to determine where to place the stop loss instead of a fixed stop loss value. And we will use fractals as one of our exit parameters. So next time, what we will do is we will adjust our exit parameters. We will give the EA multiple methods of determining whether it's time for it to get out of the market already. So folks, thank you for joining, and have a good evening.